Hello. Today I'm going to talk about everything else regarding GC Koushien 2022. So this will be the last part of the GC Koushien 2022 Afterthoughts stream. So what I'm going to talk before I start talking, so allow me to introduce myself. So my name is Morazrai, a VTuber from Malaysia who primarily streams Japanese video games. I have started streaming from 1st January 2021 and I have participated in streamers contests for 2 years with over 250 games live streamed. So what I'm going to talk tonight, so yeah, that's quite a lot. So why I am interested, the preparations, game selection, English titles, opinions on selected awards, specific opinions on games, plans for 2023 and Q&A session. So first, why I am interested. So after I get known about the contest from Niwarin and I got interested and I see that the competition is pretty much shaping the future of Japanese indie gaming scene, and since that a lot of the games are freeware, and I would say that the influence from the Japanese freeware gaming scene is also there, since they do share a lot of similarities. And there's also the fact that since a lot of my viewers are likely to be not as rich as me and they might have a limited selection of games to play, so I decided that those games would be a good alternative. And also I want to prove that gaming transcends language barriers and national borders. So I hope these reasons make sense for you. So now let's go to the next slide. So the preparations that I have made is primarily paying attention to the news, particularly announcement from the organizer. So after learning the news, then I kept a Google Sheets file to keep track games available for streaming. So the process does, how should I put it, I have to record everything and then arrange the schedule based on the expected game time. And then the games are planned 2 weeks in advance, which does cause problems when the game gets updated before the live stream starts. So regarding that, there's an announcement at the end of this stream. So the game selection are pretty much, I'll take mostly everything except for text heavy games and horror games. So the only two exceptions to this rule are Yukidoke due to its short length and Devoured by Fox Shadow due to the horror elements are minimal. And my preference would be trying to stream those games with short gameplay time, because the way the top of PV award is judged is based on the total number of views regardless of how many videos that you have posted. So I decided to stream as much games as possible, but of course I do stream longer games as well, since I need to have a balanced coverage throughout the entire event. So next up, so I think a lot of you do notice that if the game is originally having Japanese titles, I do localize the titles unless the game dev provided an English name beforehand, and most of the time it would be better if I localize the titles rather than straight up translate them. So for some specific examples, I'll show you in the next two slides. So the first one, so these are more or less straightforward, but one particular example that I want to bring up would be Haten. So when I was scheduling the stream, I didn't notice that the game is just simply called Haten, and I only realized the mistake after a few days. But the interesting thing about this game would be this game has a rank system, and you are given a rank after the game ends based on your performance. But so one of the highest rank that you can get is Hatensha, which means Skybreaker. So I guess this is a lucky coincidence. And if you look at the first one, I definitely have to simplify the title, because if I do a straight translation, the game title sounds like a title of a light novel. So let's move on to the next slide. So I think there's not much to explain on this except for the last one. So for the last one, because the original title sounds like it's a visual novel title, which isn't exactly wrong, but it de-emphasizes the puzzle aspect of it. So I decided to do a localized title where the game mechanic of devouring your victims would be emphasized in the title. So I guess that's for the English title section. So let's move on to the next slide. So yeah, as I previously promised, I will be brief on this. So Breakbeat's winning user award is actually very surprising, because last year the user award is won by Choshogi, which is really took the competition by storm, even though it ended up taking only third place. And I thought AR shooting battle would have the same effect, but it turned out that a soundtrack of all things won the user award, but still I have gave the music a brief listen and I'm definitely impressed. I would say that the composer definitely deserves the award. And then as for the grand prize, while the top 5 deserves their placements, it shows that there's a stark difference between industry professionals and gamers at large, especially considering that none of those titles get any user awards. The third place was taken by Kiritori-sen, which is a puzzle game, and it failed to even make it to the final list. And it's really jarring that the top of PV award was announced only via tweet, when last year there was a proper announcement during the awards show. And I hope that this gets fixed for next year. And the next one, so yeah, the specific opinion on games. Yeah, there's quite a lot of games that I want to give opinions, but obviously I can't give opinions on all 192 games that I have streamed. So first, multi-dimensional puzzle. So the game definitely has a cool concept. Reminded me of Mixed Dimensions, which was a game entry for last year, but definitely a lot easier. And I have heard from the developer that the full version of the game will be released on Unity Room, so I'm definitely looking forward to stream the game if that's possible. So next up is Thunder Roll. So I really like the concept where you move on rails and then launch attacks based on timing, and you should definitely try it out because the game is quite short, and there's a leaderboard system if you want to challenge yourself. The next game would be Fortissimo. Sorry for the misspelling. So I really dig the character designs and I like the music selection, even though let's just say that I didn't notice that there will be an update. I would have delayed the stream otherwise. The reasons, well, let's save that for later. So next up, Operation Monster Rescue. So that game really feels reminiscent to the Japanese rare games that I have streamed in the past, but the way the game is designed alongside the tutorial isn't foreigner friendly, but at least I know enough Japanese to get through the tutorial and understand the systems. But I would say that if you want to try this game for yourselves, then you really need to work on, how should I put it, so the standard way to understand something in-game that you do not understand when it comes to the in-game text is to do a screenshot, apply OCR to the image and run the text over using machine translation, but that is quite tedious. So the next is Rains, Cats and Boats. I do really like the way it implements the puzzling and the RPG elements, but with only 3 stages I feel like it is underutilized. I'm not sure if the game will get more stages in the future. The next one would be Monkey Escape. Yeah, the game is quite relaxing, especially considering the relaxing background with all the monkeys just being, you know, chill over the background. The next up is Life Game Wanderer. So this game is a puzzle platformer where you have to reach the goal based on how the stage changed over time. And I would say that if the dev so wish, there's a lot of potential for more stages with different concepts, but I'm not so sure if Akamondo, the developer, is interested on that. And speaking of that, I wonder what happened to the Money Gods adventure. I wonder if that game has been finished. Maybe I'll check that out later on. So the next up, Magnetic Girl. So yeah, the character is super adorable. It makes the game more attractive. And I actually ship that character with the main character of Magnolia. If I have the money, I would have commissioned a fan art to having drinks together. Non-alcoholic, mind you. So next up is Alice Trip. So the way the puzzle works is that you have to check the back layers of the stages and cut them one by one, which is quite cool, and I have yet to see this in commercial games. And the art style makes it a game that is suitable for playing with a family. Next up is re-block shooting. So normally when you shoot and then reload, the bullets just get wasted, but in this game, when you reload, the bullets get retracted back to your gun and doing damage in the process. So that's really cool, and there's a lot of creativity in that particular game mechanic. But of course there's also the fact that you can build defenses, which also adds a layer of depth to the game. So next up is Angular. So as much as I find the game hard, I would say that at its present state, the dev team should consider selling the game on Steam. I think it will be well received. So next up is Steam Project. Yeah, I really dig the art style. It feels like a visual novel, which the game does have the visual novel elements, but it is not as pronounced since it is just the first chapter. But the game also is a Muse Dash clone, which I personally don't mind. But the adventure game elements might make it not as accessible for English speaking gamers who are not fluent in Japanese. So next up is Devoured by Fox Shadow. And when I read the story, even though I don't fully understand it, I almost teared up. And I think just looking at the pictures alone would be suffice to make people understand what's going on. Next up is Shadow Wanderer, the Uncanny and Fantastic Fox. So using shadows to judge how a stage is structured is definitely something that I have yet to see in commercial games, and it's definitely a very creative way to make puzzles. But at least with the trace steps mechanic, it's very easy to trace back the steps, which makes the game easier and more tolerable. And next up is Unity-chan Action Maker. It's a freeware alternative to Mario Maker, but the problem is it is hosted in Game Atsumaru, which will shut down in 6 months time. So I do hope that the developer can upload the game elsewhere. Hopefully I'll see the game in Unity Room. The next game is Big Warehouse Company. So the way the puzzles work are quite quirky, in the sense that whatever you train the worker to do, then during future phases they behave exactly the same without regard of gravity, which contributes to something that I will talk a bit later. The next game is Rhythm Once Upon a Time. So I really find the gimmick of attack and defense tied up to the rhythm game elements kind of interesting, and I'm not sure if they have noticed about the bug happening near the end of the game. I'm not so sure if that's a result of failing previous stages or something else. Hopefully the game gets an update later on maybe. I'm not so sure. But considering that a lot of those games tend to be abandoned after the competition ends, I don't hold much hope for that. The next game is Yubisa Keep. So the game has a cute and adorable presentation. The art style is reminiscent of children's books. Even the game over screen is just the One-san getting angry at the playable characters. And I do have plans to do a rerun of this game if the time permits. Next up is George and the Giant's House. So the game trailer actually shows the walkthrough for this game, but when I actually try this game myself, I find it really hard. Not to mention that I have problems playing this kind of games, and so the result is that the live stream of the game was a disaster, in which I failed to clear the game at all. And with that, I don't think I will do a rerun. So the last game would be Miko's Red Note. So I find the game over screen is very cute. So essentially it depicts the Miko go to sleep under the kotatsu, which is like, fine, I'm giving up. But it's not like there are no other games with adorable game over screens like Lock Knock Rock with the game over screen depicting the furry character, I would say, sulking on the ground. So okay, so now on to the next part. So before I continue, once you see it, is obviously what they are, but if I see a certain word on the chat or the comments, they will get deleted. Okay, so don't say that word. So one game is only eligible for one category in one group, so one game is eligible for a maximum of 3 awards, so to speak. Oops, I said the word crap. So it's limited to games that I stream and do not account for updates. This is just my personal opinion, so please don't take this seriously. Okay, so let's start with the least important categories first. So the best trailer is Teleportal. So, and if you are curious, where does the trailer come from? It's from the official YouTube channel of GC Koushien, which does host the video, the introduction video for all the entries. So I'm going to give a link just in case if you are interested. Okay. Oops. Okay, the link is here. So the next one is Take Me There. So essentially a game that I wish that I would be able to visit. So that game would be Seal's Wind. The environment is very large and calmful, so I hope that if I could visit that place, I would definitely do. So the next one is the most clutch. So that goes to Unknown Sky region. So the game actually, how should I put it? It took me quite a lot of retries, and despite the struggle, there's no element of frustration that I felt throughout the process, which is a totally different feeling from Kick Charger, which frustrates me to no end. For the next category, Teach Me Sensei, that goes to Hero from Haten. I mean, infinite dashes. That's something that I wish that I could have. The next one is Sweet Dreams Fuel. That goes to String Puller Sumugi-chan. So everything is made from strings. The character designs are quite adorable, and not to mention that the story itself is mostly trying to get everyone become friends again. So if you want to play just to relax, this game is for you, but keep in mind that this game is a puzzle platformer, so don't expect too much. The next one, Nightmare Fuel, would be Lightly Panic Circus. So the environment of the game is, well, it's not horror as in, blood, like scaring elements, but the environment is really dangerous, and you are playing as a hand handling a balloon, and the balloon is really very weak. Touching anything means the balloon explodes. So it's kind of like, I really can't describe the scary feeling that derives from that. The next one is Heartstrings Puller. It's obviously that goes to Devoured by Fox Shadow, because the story is really a story that almost made me cry. The next one will be a dream crossover that goes to Android Maid Megafist, and I forget how I did localize that one. I need to check first, so please hold on for a while. Okay, so let me see. When I streamed that game, I think it's quite a while ago. Let's see. Yep, Naguru the Super Fistigal. So the thing is, both games share the same protagonist, where their abilities are punching things away and then making combos based on those enemy contacts. So both of them would survive being swapped places, and I do want to see if, say, I do imagine the two being put together and punching things together, but I guess that's just some imagination. So the last one on this group is Serious Premise, which goes to big warehouse company. So yeah, the fact that the workers that you train can move around without regard of gravity and the conditions of the stage makes it really looks silly when it's executed, but that also contributes to the brilliance in the puzzle designs, where you have to account for that aspect when you try to solve the levels. But still, those on first glance you will definitely laugh at how they behave, but as the stage progresses you will be impressed on how the solutions can be derived from those silliness. So let's move on to the next group of categories. So the best male character will be the hero from Epic Sword. It's definitely obviously because the design, it really makes the hero look really powerful, which is indeed the case in the game, to the point that being able to beat a Reaper, yeah, that's really powerful. And the best female character would be Wanda from Fortissimo. So I mean, Fortissimo is a rhythm game, and the designs of Wanda reminds us of that fact. The best non-human character would be Rusty from Camden Beast. So on that regard, there's not much competition, so she wins by default. The best level goes to level 3-1 in Kalmia because that level forces you to think how the stage progresses as time passes. Next up is the best music would be Satellite by Submoon used in Hexarhythm. So I'm going to hold up a link on that. Okay, so the link is copied, so now let's put it in the chat. So if you want to listen to the music right now, the link is in the chat. Okay, the best sound effects goes to Taco Can, since they are realistic depictions of what happens when cans get crushed, and interestingly, the taco inside the cans can survive getting crushed. So next up, the best tutorial goes to Neon Slayer. So the tutorial definitely gives a good job on explaining how the game control works, and I should have tried that section before I go through the main game when I streamed the game a few months ago. It will definitely make things a lot easier. Next up is the most foreigner friendly game, that goes to Fly Carry. So the way the tutorial is displayed on top of the simple controls makes it the language requirement is minimal, and it can be quite challenging if you want to get the best grades or getting 100% collection. The character is a female pirate, an adult female pirate, which won't be objectionable for everyone. I wonder if someone gonna mold that game to include a certain pirate girl VTuber. So anyways, let's go to the next part. So the best boss battle goes to Great in Folklore. So fighting that one requires quite some thinking, and being able to finally beat the boss after a few retries definitely feels satisfying. And on to the last part. So I'm going to read them from the bottom first. So the game with the most potential is a Void, and I would say that the environment is lush and the hybrid between the action game and rhythm game elements are very well synchronized, and I do look forward to see if this game is going to be completed. And if it's completed, I plan to stream the full game in this channel if I can schedule a time for that. But the best gameplay goes to Fly Carry. well, for the reasons why the game is foreigner friendly, and the game does allow for infinite retries, but it never feels impossible, unlike certain other games. The next category is future esports title that goes to Ray of Function. So the game is a melee attack battle royale game. So with battle royale games having esports revolve around them, I'm definitely looking forward if this game gets future developments and possibly a tournament scene or something, but that's very unlikely, but one can hope. The best level design go to Z Parade. So on that regard, the designs are very varied and they never feel impossible. It's just a matter of trying to get the timings right, and even that, the barrier of execution is quite low unless you aim to get perfect for everything. That's another matter, but that won't be matter for most people. The next category is best voice acting that goes to Hexarhythm. So the witch character has a very pleasant voice, and it really feels like you are rooting for her since the story has you to help her around. And I would say that whomever who voices that character, if it's really a real person behind it, could be a professional voice actor in the future. The best environment category goes to Epic Sword because it's really lush and feels medieval, something that don't be seen in other games, but there are also other games with decent environments such as Seal's Wind and Monkey Escape, but they are not as detailed as this game though. The best character designs goes to Monster Girls League. So the reason why I chose this game is that the designs makes them more like athletes than monsters, and the differentiation between characters of the same type are very visible, which makes recognizing them in the middle of a battle easier. By the way, this game is a sports game, so it isn't as violent as what you have expected. The best soundtrack would be Thrive, but keep in mind that this award accounts for music assets, which this game really make really good use of. If you want to know what they are, you can download the game and check their credits. So the last game, which is Game of the Year, equivalent to the grand prize, goes to Dawn Gura. So that game is the closest game that feels reminiscent to the game entries in last year, particularly Korodama Monogatari and Lumino La Ruta Natural. So, and the game is really challenging, even though I do manage to finish the game and also the 3D movement aspects does give the game a higher dimensional feel than other game entries in both years, except for mixed dimension puzzle and mixed dimensions, both with some degree of 2D and 3D puzzling elements. But still, I would say that this game is the best game that I have ever streamed among the ones that I have streamed throughout this year. So before that, let me check if there's the Q&A stuff coming in. Oof. No one asked me any questions, and this is after I extended the deadline from 2 days ago to just 1 hour before the stream supposed to start. So I find it really disappointing. So I guess I'll just skip through to the plans for next year. So depending on the validity of permissions, I will start the year with the games that I have yet to cover, and once I have finished with those, I will do reruns for selected games, and those will depend on when new game entries will be available. So with entries available starting from next week, in fact 3 entries are already available last week, I hope that I can do a decent coverage before I have to start with the newer games. So of course the game entries for next year are definitely on my radar. And I don't really set goals for how many games that I'm going to cover, because there are something else that I want to do in this channel, and I really hope that it doesn't boil down to a situation where I have to suspend that part. But let's see how things happen. So anyways, if you are a game developer for the game entries of GC Koushien and you have any requests, especially if you want me to stream your game entry, you can contact me over Twitter, and you can send direct message if you are not comfortable to asking this out of the open. So that's it for all of the afterthoughts that I have wanted to say. So see you during next year. I will definitely do a lot of coverage for that event, and hopefully I can enjoy the game entries, which should be as good as what I have covered so far. So the schedule for next week will be posted as soon as possible. And with that, that's it for today's stream, and I'll see you tomorrow.